You know, sometimes I wonder, but like I understand the plight of our people in Guyana. We were stuck with these two parties, the PNC and the PPP, and they played us against each other. What I do know is that the average Indians are opposed to the PNC for historical reasons, and they support the PPP. But what I do know is that over time, large section of the Indian population became disillusioned with the PPP, and that is why in the 2011 and 2015 elections, over 30,000 crossed the floor to vote for the coalition, and they removed the PPP from government. Unfortunately, the coalition lost a glorious opportunity to transition this country, but they failed miserably to do so. Come 2020, if the coalition had held elections in accordance to the Constitution in March, they would have had a better chance of winning the elections. They might have been given a second chance. But they tried to rig it. They started talking of 34 is a majority, and so they would have killed any hope for any votes coming from the Indian population. A lot of them, most of them went back to the PPP, some stayed home. Come 2025, the Afro-Guyanese in large quantities, large numbers, broke from the PNC as they recognize that the PNC does not look after the ordinary people. A lot of people in the hierarchy got land and got benefits, but nothing trickled down to the people at the bottom. Of course, I'm sure a lot of Afro-Guyanese would have been upset over the signing of the Exxon contract, actually giving away our resources to Exxon. The PPP promised to renegotiate the VP and the president, but instead of requesting, they started talking of the sanctity of the contract, which had no sanctity in the first place. However, the least they could have done was ask. The people in Chatham House, the expert said, whenever they come to you for various things, you can make demand from them. But instead of making demands, our vice president expedites everything for ExxonMobil. Now, let's look at the development and the oil money and the very large budget that we have. I wrote in letters in the press, some of you might have read it, and I made it clear that the measures, most of the measures put in place by the PPP government benefits the better off. It does not trickle down to the people at the bottom, and no specific policies, no strategic policies um, were put in place to benefit the people at the bottom. The World Bank and so estimates poverty to be above 50%. Our people still depend on barrels and assistance from overseas. Recently, the president spoke about how he removed the taxes on gasoline and fuel. And he did mention that the cost of fare and transportation did not drop. In other words, the people with vehicles, businessmen, and so on, would have benefited from the lowered gas price. But they did not pass this on to the people. And so I think stupidly, he decided to pay the tolls for the people using the bridge, the Berbice Bridge. Now, in 2 years' time, the Berbice Bridge would have belonged to the people of this country. We all know that the way the structure of the financing for that bridge benefited a few of Barrett's friends and cronies. Although NIS and the government put the major share, those were the people who getting most of the benefit. But they decided they're going to pay the, the toll for the people who uses the bridge, who use the bridge. Well, what is going to happen is that more people will use it more often because you don't have to pay the toll. So the amount of money going to those people would increase. And the same people who benefited from the gas price um, are going to benefit from the government removal of the toll. So let's say a taxi driver will probably increase his take by $50,000 a month. Let's say a truck from Blackbush Polder would pay at least $15,000 a trip on 2 trips a week. It means that that particular truck will gain $120,000 a month extra going to their pockets. So as the president said, over $100 billion of relief is going into the hands of people with cars and trucks and so on. So they are the ones to benefit. So the people at the bottom are not benefiting from these measures. So the people supporting the PPP has to understand when he gives the cash grant, he gives it to the rich and the poor. He gives we care grant to the school children, the rich and the poor gets it. The removal of duty and toll benefits the upper class or the middle class, those people with cars, etc. So there's nothing in place there for the people at the bottom. Nothing. You give free education, free tuition at UG. Now here again a certain category will benefit. If you live in Leguan or Region 10 or Region 7 or Region 6 and you can't afford the rent and so on, you can't afford to go UG, although tuition is free. I have written about this, that we need a professionally run welfare system to address people who are in need instead of removing tolls and all of those things. In terms of rice farmers and so on, if they owe the bank, those are the people that will go to the professional body, put their case to the professional body, and get assistance to those who need, not to give the rich farmers and the poor farmers. So I don't know what are these guys thinking, who advises the government, whether they listen to advice. But all the measures are directed to help those who are better off. And it's not helping the people at the very bottom, the 50% who are in poverty. So when I was advisor to the Minister of Labor, I fought for and we set up a poverty program that is being run by the Ministry of Labor. It's still running and it's assisting people, but a lot of people do not know about it. So as I said, the UCare grant is going to those in the school. What about the school children who cannot afford to go to school? So nothing is being done about them. So I feel it is time, seeing that I know a lot of Indians vote PPP because they're scared of the PNC, especially since what they did at the last election, in the election in 2020. But I'm saying that now that the PNC had become so weak, it is time for the supporters of the PPP to recognize that the PPP has not been putting policy in place to help the people at the bottom, and they've been helping themselves and their friends and their cronies. And recently, the greed of these people have shown itself again. In 2009, Bar Jagdeo increased the salary for the president, and the former presidents and their salary will increase as the president's salary increase. And there was unlimited benefits, no caps, unlimited benefits to former presidents in terms of electricity, number of cars, number of security, all of these things. So when PPP lost the majority in 2011, a bill was passed in Parliament to cap the benefits to former presidents. It was sent to Donald Ramotar, who, because he's going to become a former president, refused to assent to the bill. So it did not become law. When the Granger government took power, although he was going to become a former president and gain from the unlimited benefits, he assented to the bill. It became law, so the benefits were capped. Now, the PPP government has introduced a bill in Parliament to remove the caps so that he, Irfan Ali and Bharat and the rest will again have unlimited benefits, no caps, unlimited benefits. As if they haven't grabbed enough, they want more, they want more, and they want more. These are the kind of people that lead the PPP today. Okay? So we need to relook carefully at the support we are giving the PPP and consider that now the PNC has been reduced. It is probably time to see the PPP for what it is and take a different position come the next election. I've been arguing over the years that the strongest force in this country is a united working class. And when sugar and bauxite went on strike together, they got 40% instead of 0% that Hoyt said they were going to get. So the unity of the working class is important, and once the working class is united, we can make demands. So this is what I want to say at this point in time. So good night to fellow Guyanese, and have a blessed night.